Hello everyone, welcome to LAM Special Lecture Series featuring Gua Sha, Day 3 of 4. In the past, people often used spoons, copper coins, tender bamboo plates as the scrapers, while using clean water and various kinds of plant oil as lubricants. These tools are simple and available with good effects. However, they are apt to injure skin and that they look coarse for today's people. Nowadays, holographic scrapers are mostly used. Their edges match perfectly with the anatomic form of each area on the human body, bringing stimulation right to the place, while being conducive to increasing the comfort of the scraping. Besides, professional lubricants are now available for the scraping. The combination of the new scraper with the new lubricants makes the scraping more comfortable with more obvious results. This scraper is oblong with smooth edges and 4 blunt round angles. Both long sides can scrape the flat areas of the body, while 2 protruding angles are very suitable for scraping the cavity on the body, as well as for scraping acupoints on the spine and the head. The holographic scraper is generally made of jade, which looks crystal clear in addition to fine texture, larger density, and nice property of heat conduction. The application of the holographic scraper can not only cure and prevent illness, but also nurture yin, reduce inner heat, and cultivate mental tranquility. It's better for the operator to keep such a scraper for exclusive use in order to avoid cross-infection. The multifunctional scraping comb. Its biggest difference from other kinds of scraping plates is that one of its long edges has been designed into thick comb teeth, which is convenient for combing acupoints over the head without doing harm to the head and the skin. Apart from being used to comb and scrape the head, it can also be applied to the body all over. This scraper is generally made of buffalo horn, being free from the static electricity. The buffalo horn is also marked by the effect of dispersing blockage in the circulation of vital energy, reduction of heat, expulsion of toxin, invigoration of blood, and elimination of stasis. Using it to scrape the body plays a very good role in healthcare. This kind of scraper has 4 different edges. The curve of its edges is designed according to the anatomic form of different facial parts. The short curve is suitable for scraping the forehead and the long curve for scraping the face, while 2 protruding angles are suitable for scraping the lower jaw, the nose bridge, and the acupoint around the eyes. Towels or napkins are necessary due to the flow of the scraping oil in the course of the scraping, and that the patient has to put on clothes or cover the body with clothes, but the scraping oil tends to remain wet. So, preparing a clean and soft cotton towel or some napkins can save you a lot of trouble. As lubricant, the scraping oil is generally made of Chinese herbal medicine featured by reduction of heat, expulsion of toxin, invigoration of blood, elimination of stasis and inflammation, stoppage of pain without toxic and side effect, as well as plant oil with strong penetration and nice lubrication. Chinese herbal medicine is conducive to smoothing main and collateral channels, promoting the circulation of vital energy and blood, as well as expelling stasis, while plant oil helps to moisten and protect the skin. The application of the scraping oil can not only lubricate the skin and reduce pain, but also speed up the expulsion of evil substances and prevent infection. We also recommend the use of virgin coconut oil, which is available locally. Scraping cream can be used since the liquid scraping oil is apt to flow, making it inconvenient to be applied to the face. The scraping cream is a kind of ointment composed of Chinese herbal medicine with quite nice lubricity. The elements of Chinese medicine in it are mild, with the effect of invigorating blood, dispersing stasis, improving the microcirculation of the face, and nurturing the skin. Please pay attention not to use face creams for daily care as the lubricant for the scraping, since most of the elements in them are not natural. There are mainly 3 steps. Choose the body position, choose the scraping areas, and operation. However, before and after the scraping, some preparation and follow-up work are needed. For example, the interior environment should be adjusted before the scraping. After the scraping, the patient should drink an appropriate amount of water and pay attention to keeping warm. Concrete methods for scraping also involve many aspects, such as the timing, the extent of force, and speed, as well as skills by hand. Choose an appropriate place. Before scraping, a suitable environment should be chosen, with an interior environment of fresh air and moderate temperature being the best. The room temperature had better be above 18. When the room temperature is too high, the patient should not be exposed to direct cold wind from the air conditioner or the electric fan. Choose a comfortable body position. A suitable body position can relax yourself and your muscles, leading to better effects of scraping and the reduction of pain in the course of scraping. The scraper should decide to choose a suitable body position according to the area to be scraped. Generally, there are 3 kinds of body positions as follows. The sitting position is chosen when one scrapes oneself except the waist. If scraping is performed by another person, the patient, except being scraped on the chest and the abdomen, had better face the chair back while sitting with arms placed on the chair back as a supporter. The patient had better lie on the back when being scraped on such areas as the forehead, the head top, the face, the chest, the abdomen, and the front side of lower limbs. The patient had better lie prostrate when being scraped on such areas as the rear of the head, the shoulders, the back, the waist, and the rear side of lower limbs. The abdomen should be cushioned with a soft pillow as a supporter to prevent the waist from falling down, which can lead to the muscle tension in the waist and back and influence the scraping effect or increase pain. It is very important to choose a correct area for the scraping. The area for the scraping should be judged and chosen according to the physique, symptoms, and purpose of treatment of each individual. There are different channels, acupoints, or body surface for scraping that are corresponding to different diseases or physical conditions. With the area for the scraping chosen, expose this area to the full and use napkins to protect clothes near the area to avoid being dirtied. Then, apply scraping oil to this area to start operation. Please apply the beauty care cream if the area is on the face. With the scraper in hand, first use the scraper rim to smear the skin with scraping oil from bottom upward vertically and evenly. Then, decide on the direction, time, force, speed, and techniques of the scraping according to the physique of the patient, the area for scraping, and the purpose of scraping. These elements exert a considerable influence on the effect of scraping. A good mastery of points of attention and techniques can enhance the effect of treatment or healthcare. Generally, scraping should center on the acupoint. The operator is supposed to move the scraper around within a range of 8 to 15 centimeters as the total length, a range larger than the related acupoint in principle. If the channel to be scraped is quite long, then it can be scraped in sections. There are no strict requirements for scraping order, and that the area scraped can be chosen as the case may be. In order to reduce the number of times of taking off and putting on clothes, the operator can start from the upper body to the lower part of the body, from the back and waist to the chest and abdomen, from the torso to forelimbs. Besides, the appearance of Sha and pain in the course of the scraping are normal, with no harm to the health. A good mastery of correct points of attention and techniques can reduce pain while maintaining the curative effect. Points of attention for the scraping are concretely introduced as follows. The scraping direction. Generally, scraping proceeds from top to bottom or from inside to outside, many times in the same direction. For example, start from top to bottom when scraping the back, the abdomen, and the forelimbs, but from the bottom up if the patient suffers from limb edema, varicosity, or visceral ptosis. Start from the neck toward each side of the shoulder peak when scraping shoulders. Proceed from inside to outside when scraping the ribs and the face. The scraping time. It is usually decided by the physique, scraping area, state of illness, and the force applied in the scraping. Generally, it takes no more than 20 minutes each time, and the time should be shortened for weak patients as the case may be. The scraping time can be adjusted according to the speed and the number of times of the scraping. The time can be prolonged as the case may be if the speed of the scraping goes slow. The scraping of each area should stop when pores open slightly or Sha appears. There will be pain if the same area is scraped for too long time. If the pain becomes obvious, scraping should stop at once, even if there is no appearance of Sha, and that the operator can turn to a different area. The scraping of each area should stop when pores open slightly or the Sha appears. Interval of scraping should also be decided according to the physique of the patient and how well the patient has recovered. The criterion is that the partial skin has become normal and that fatigue and the sense of pain when touched have disappeared. Generally, the disappearance of Sha takes 5 to 7 days on the average and 2 to 3 days as the quickest. The slowest will be about 2 weeks. Considerable pressure should always be kept in the course of the scraping so as to exert the force of the scraping into deep tissues to produce the curative effect. Only scraping the skin surface will not produce any curative effect and is likely to cause edema. However, it does not mean the greater the pressure is, the better the effect will be. Patients of different physique and state of illness should be dealt with as the case may be. If greater force for the scraping is required, the operator should gradually increase the force so that the patient can adapt himself slowly to the force to reduce the pain. Each time, the speed for the scraping should be stable and even with a constant speed. Generally speaking, the quicker the scraping goes, the more painful the patient feels. The slower the scraping goes, the less painful the patient feels. It is very simple to hold the scraper. Hold the scraper in one hand with its bottom rim laid on the center of the palm, while the thumb and the other 4 fingers bent inward, respectively, on the both sides of the scraper. Press downward with the force of the palm center when scraping. There are many ways of using the scraper. However, for the family treatment and health care, you only need to master several basic ones of them. Commonly used ways are as follows. Flat scraping. Press the entire surface of a scraper against the skin and then tilt the scraper with an angle no more than 15 degrees away from the skin surface. The pressing force should be larger than the force pushing forward. This serves to reduce pain and has strong downward penetration force, which is suitable for sensitive areas on the body. Surface scraping. Press the longer side of the scraper against the skin and incline it toward the scraping direction at an angle of 30 to 60 degrees. 45 degrees would be best. Then scrape evenly in the same direction. This method is suitable for flat areas on the body. Angle scraping is divided into single angle scraping and dual angle scraping. As for the single angle scraping, a corner of the scraper is used to scrape the acupoint from top to bottom at an inclined angle of 45 degrees. This method is often applied to such acupoints as Jianzhen or SI9, Danzhong or Ren 17, and Fengqi or gallbladder 20. In dual angle scraping, the groove of the scraper is directed at the spinous process of the spine, with the 2 corners on both sides of the groove gently placed between the spinous process of the spine and the transverse process on both sides at an inclined angle of 45 degrees downward, scraping from top to bottom. This is mostly applied to the spine. Sharp edge scraping. Press one corner of the scraping plate at a vertical angle of 90 degrees against the acupoint area. Always attach the scraper to the skin and rub and scrape it forward and backward, left and right, within a short distance of about 2 to 3 centimeters with some pressure. Concentrated pressing. Press the corner of the scraping plate at an angle of 90 degrees against the acupoint and press downward vertically, with the force becoming gradually heavier. Then lift the plate quickly after a while. This method suits such acupoints as Ranzhong or GV26 and Ziyan. Pressing and kneading. This method is divided into flat pressing and kneading and vertical pressing and kneading. Flat pressing and kneading is to press one side of the scraper corner, tilting no more than 20 degrees against an appropriate acupoint, followed by slow and gentle kneading in a circular manner. This method usually suits Heku point or Li4, Niguan point or PC6, and Susanli point, ST36, as well as other areas sensitive to the pain. Vertical pressing and kneading is to press the scraper against the acupoint with the edge of the scraping plate tilting at an angle of 90 degrees, followed by gentle and slow pressing and kneading. This method suits the acupoint in the bone seams and the reflection areas at the radial side of the second palm bone. The scraping plate inclines at an angle no more than 45 degrees toward the scraping direction, with the scraping progressing forward inch by inch. Its pressing force is greater than that of the flat scraping, and its speed is slower than that of the flat scraping. Angle kneading. Use the corner on the thicker side of the scraper to move around in a whirling way near the acupoint on the body surface. The scraping plate should stay unmoved on the skin surface while kneading, but adopt continuous whirls to trigger off the tissue movement under the skin. The scraping techniques. This is divided into reinforcing method and reducing method. Reducing method is applied to the patient of excess syndrome, marked by strong physique with red face and ears, excessive evil elements, or the patient in emergency, which requires bigger force and quicker speed during Gua Sha. Reinforcing method should be applied to the patient of deficiency syndrome featured by old age, weakness and pale face, requiring smaller force and slower speed in scraping. In the course of the scraping, if obvious pain, nodules, and nodes are found, reinforcing method should first be applied, that is, slowly scrape and press to reduce pain. For the patient with quite obvious pain, use the flat scraping method or the pushing and scraping method. To reduce pain in the process of scraping, apart from the mastery of correct scraping methods, adjusting the scraping surface and the angle of the scraper can also reduce pain. As for the scraping surface, the smaller the point of force is, the more painful the patient will feel. On the contrary, enlarging the contact surface of the scraping plate on the skin can reduce pain. In terms of the scraping angle of the scraper, the principle is that it should be conducive to reducing the pain of the patient and making the scraping convenient for the operator. Pain will increase when the tilting angle of the scraping plate with the scraping direction is larger than 45 degrees. Such an angle should be smaller than 15 degrees for the patient sensitive to pain or for the scraped area sensitive to pain. In this way, pain will be obviously reduced. After scraping, use clean napkins or towels to press the area scraped, to wipe out remaining oil, put on clothes quickly, and drink some warm water to keep warm. Now we go to Gua Sha methods. Appropriate scraping methods should be chosen according to the anatomic features of different body parts. The head. The surface scraping should be applied over the head since it is covered with hair without the application of the lubricant. To reinforce the scraping effect, the thin edge or the corner of the scraping plate can be used. Each area can be scraped for about 30 times until the scalp feels heat. Several ways of scraping are concretely introduced as follows. Taiyang point. Use the corner of the scraping plate to scrape this acupoint from the front to the back or from up to down. Both sides of the head. Attach the scraping plate vertically to the area between Tui point or stomach 8 and the lower sideburns and scrape all the way from the hairline above the ear to the rear of the hairline. The top of the head with Baihui point or GV20 as the border of the top of the head, scrape from the hairline of the forehead to Baihui point or from Baihui point to the hairline from left to right. The rear of the head. Scrape from Baihui point down to the hairline at the rear of the neck from left to right orderly. Fingchu point or gallbladder 20 can also be scraped with the corner of the scraping plate. You can also take Baihui point as the center and scrape toward all directions. Reflection areas on the head. Scrape the frontal belt of the head top from the front to the rear or vice versa. Scrape the rear belt on the head and the lateral occipital belt from up to down. Scrape the anterior temporal belt and the posterior temporal belt from up to down. Scrape the mid-frontal belt and the lateral frontal belt from up to down. For healthcare, scraping can be done in either up-down or left-right directions. Sharp edge scraping method is adopted when scraping the reflection areas on the head. The face. Scrape the face from inside to outside according to the direction of facial muscle. Since the appearance of Sha on the face looks unpleasant, scraping should be gentle, and that large area scraping with heavy force is taboo. Ask for the permission of the patient before scraping the eyes, mouth, ears, and nose for treatment, for it can cause appearance of Sha in these areas. The force, direction, angle, and the number of times for the scraping of the face depends on the convenience of the scraping and the tolerance of the affected part in receiving the scraping. The back. Scrape the back from up to down. Generally, first scrape due meridian along the central line on the back, and then the bladder meridian and Chiachi points. For shoulder problems, scrape from the neck to the acromion on either side, respectively. The chest. Use the corner of the scraping plate to scrape from Tian 2 or Ren 22 point to Dancheng point or CV17 along the Ren meridian at the central line on the chest from up to down. For both sides of the chest, scrape from the anterior median line of the Ren meridian to the left or right along the ribs with the edge of the scraper. Pay attention to avoiding the nipples. Scrape the Zhengfu point or Langwan from up to down with the corner of the scraper. The waist. Scrape the waist from up to down with the entire edge or 1/3 of the edge of the scraper. Scrape from the left side of the waist to its right side in order. For the patient with a visceratosis, scrape from bottom up. Forelimbs. Scrape forelimbs from the near end to the far end. For the patient suffering from lower limb varicosity and lower limb edema, scrape from the far end of the limbs to the near end. The force of the scraping should be reduced at the joints or bony parts of the body. We now go to expelling toxins of internal organs. According to Chinese medicine, the human body is an organic entity with 5 major inner organs as the core. These organs are marked by yin and yang respectively. Yin and yang form an integral part and exert influence on one another. For instance, the heart integrates with small intestine, lungs integrate with large intestine, the spleen integrates with the stomach, the liver integrates with the gallbladder, kidneys integrate with the bladder, and the pericardium integrates with the triple warmer. Only by having understood these relations can the operator get twice the result with half the efforts in expelling toxin in all inner organs. Scraping methods for expelling toxin in the heart and the small intestine. Use the surface scraping to scrape the corresponding area of the heart and the corresponding area of the small intestine on the spine from top to bottom. Use the surface scraping to scrape the projection area of the heart and the projection area of the small intestine on the body surface from top to bottom. Use the single angle kneading to press and knead the reflection area of the heart and the reflection area of the small intestine in palm. Use the surface scraping to scrape Shaoyin heart meridian of the hand and Taiyang small intestine meridian of the hand, with focus on scraping from heart 3 to heart 9 and from SI8 to SI1. Use the single angle kneading to press and knead the reflection area of the heart and the reflection area of the small intestine in the sole. For the purpose of expelling toxin in inner organs through scraping, once or twice each week will be enough for each organ, and that the appearance of Sha is not a must. The best time slot for expelling toxin in the heart is between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., during which a small nap will be nice for nurturing the heart and expelling toxin at the same time. The following period between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. will be the time for expelling toxin in the small intestine. During this period, the patient can eat something as proper supplement of nutrients and do some simple exercise, such as kicking legs, which can stimulate the small intestine meridian for better movement. Scraping methods for expelling toxin in the lungs and the large intestine. Use the surface scraping to scrape the corresponding area of the lungs and the corresponding area of the large intestine on the spine from top to bottom. Use the surface scraping to scrape the projection area of the lungs and the projection area of the large intestine on the body surface from top to bottom. Use the flat pressing and kneading to press and knead the reflection area of the lungs and the reflection area of the large intestine in the palm. Use the surface scraping to scrape from lung 5 to lung 11 along the lung meridian and from LI11 to LI1 along the large intestine meridian. Use the flat pressing and kneading to press and knead the reflection area of the lungs and the reflection area of the large intestine in the sole. The time for expelling toxin in the lungs is between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. in early morning, the period when people should be in deep sleep. People who are apt to cough due to problematic lungs often suffer more in this period. Pressing and kneading the Taiwan point on the lung meridian on the inside of the arm can ease the symptom. The time for expelling toxin in the large intestine meridian is the period between 5 a.m. and 7 a.m. This is the period when people should get up to have bowel movement, which can make the body feel relaxed the whole day. Scraping methods for expelling toxin in the liver and the gallbladder. Use the surface scraping to scrape the corresponding area of the liver and the gallbladder on the spine from top to bottom. Use the surface scraping to scrape the projection area of the liver and the gallbladder on the body surface from up to bottom. Use the flat pressing and kneading to press and knead the reflection areas of the liver and the gallbladder in the palm. Use the surface scraping to scrape from GB34 to GB37 along the gallbladder meridian in the lower limbs and from liver 8 to liver 1 along the liver meridian. Use the flat pressing and kneading to press and knead the reflection areas of the liver and the gallbladder in the sole. The period of expelling toxin in the gallbladder is between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m. at midnight, the period in which yang energy begins to go up. People will be apt to suffer from insomnia if they don't sleep in this period. Long-term insomnia will affect human functions all over the body and further influence functions of the inner organs. The period of expelling toxin in the liver is between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. in the early hours, the high time in which the liver produces blood and expels toxin, requiring the guarantee for deep sleep. People with undesirable functions of the liver and the gallbladder must not often stay up late. Scraping methods for expelling toxin in the spleen and the stomach. Use the surface scraping to scrape the corresponding area of the spleen and the stomach on the spine from top to bottom. Use the surface scraping to scrape the projection area of the spleen and the stomach on the body surface from top to bottom. Use the flat pressing and kneading to press and knead the reflection areas of the spleen, the stomach, the small intestine, and the large intestine in the palm. Use the surface scraping to scrape from spleen 9 to spleen 6 along the spleen meridian, and from stomach 36 to stomach 40 along the stomach meridian in the lower limbs. Use the flat pressing and kneading to press and knead the reflection area of the spleen, the stomach, the small intestine, and the large intestine in the soul. The period between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. in the morning is the time when the energy of stomach meridian is in its prime, while the period between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. is the time when the energy of the spleen meridian is in its prime. The stomach absorbs water and grains for digestion, while the spleen turns them into vital energy and blood and conveys them all over the body. So, the period between 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. is the best time for breakfast. A timely and nice breakfast serves to smooth the generation and circulation of the vital energy and blood. Scraping methods for expelling toxin in the kidneys and the bladder. Use the surface scraping to scrape the corresponding area of the kidneys and the bladder on the spine from top to bottom. Use the surface scraping to scrape the projection area of the bladder on the body surface from top to bottom. Use the flat pressing and kneading to press and knead the reflection areas of the kidneys and the bladder in the palm. Use the surface scraping to scrape from kidney 10 to kidney 4 along the kidney meridian in the lower limbs, and from bladder 40 to bladder 58 along the bladder meridian. Use the flat pressing and kneading to press and knead the reflection areas of the kidneys and the bladder in the soul. The period between 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. is the time when the energy of bladder meridian is in its prime. The bladder chiefly functions as storing water and body fluids, with the water discharged and body fluids kept in the body for circulation. In this period of time, most people are at work, requiring particular attention to the supplement of water to promote the expulsion of garbage in the body, in addition to paying attention to timely discharge of urine. The period between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. is the time when the energy of kidney meridian is in its prime. After a whole day's work, people would feel extremely tired. Kneading kidney can not only nurture kidneys and help kidneys to expel toxin, but also effectively ease fatigue of the whole day. Thank you very much for your attention.